I've got a caller who is calling in regarding my last guest, kind of on affirmative action, the firefighter we have. So Gary from Gig Harbor, Washington, is on the line. Gary, welcome to the show.
Yeah, no, I just had my comment was my sister's a resident firefighter, and, she's testing for fire departments, and she gets graded on a curve. So any test she scores, she automatically gets a 10% bump. And if you're a female and a minority, you get a 20% bump. So, you obviously know that fires discriminate based on that. So the fire, obviously, on women is probably 10% easier.
Yeah, but why though? I mean, first of all, you're talking about the written exams are on a curve for women.
Just the overall, the whole testing process is 20%, or I'm sorry, it's 10% for a woman. You get 10% bump, and 20% for if you're a female minority.
So what about just being a male minority? You don't get a bump on that?
Yeah, you get 10%.
So, 10% for being a male minority, 10% for being a female, and then you get double if you're a female minority.
Correct.
Yeah, and of course, first of all, I don't even understand why on an exam, right, on a paper exam where you're answering questions, why you should get any bump, certainly for being a woman. I mean, most women will tell you they're smarter than men anyway, so why do they need, any extra help on the written exam? I can see on the physical exam that, women are not going to be as athletic as men, but, to the extent that you have to have a certain amount of athleticism, a certain amount of strength or agility to operate as a fireman, to operate the equipment or to maneuver through a fire safely, I don't think we should lower that bar for anybody. So if you're a woman and you want to be a fireman, you should have to be able to perform physically to the standards that we hold men. Because if you can't, then you need to find another line of work. I mean, maybe you can work in the fire department as a dispatcher or something else, but if you want to be on the line fighting fires, you got to be one tough woman. I mean, that's just the way it is. And then there probably are some women who are in good enough physical shape that they can do it. But if you're not in that kind of shape, then look for another line of work, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, like I told my sister that, I go, the fire's not going to discriminate because you're a woman. And I mean, the whole thing is, all it is it's a bunch of bureaucrats and, the politicians that want to have, a fair amount of, on paper, they, like you were talking about your guest, they want a fair amount of women and minorities. And so to help them meet that quota, that's why they dropped the standard for that. And I mean, that's,
if my house was on fire and my son was trapped inside and the fire department came and a woman went to try to save him, and she just wasn't quite up to the task, and he died, and maybe she died too. If I found out that the reason that she was a firefighter was because they graded on a curve, and she really wouldn't have qualified, but they hired her just because she's a woman, I mean, I'd want to sue that fire department. I would say, no, I pay my taxes.
How is it not discriminatory when you put it's on paper? You have on paper that you have your grading separately, and I mean, how can you say that's not discriminatory when it's on black and white that you're giving them a bump? It doesn't make sense.
Oh, yeah, no, the whole thing, it's all about outcomes. It's all about political correctness so that the numbers look good. And again, these do-gooders, these poverty pimp people that sell this racism, this kind of stuff breeds racism and resentment among individuals who now, don't get the positions because they're white. And now instead of resenting the system, they resent the black or the Hispanic who got the job that they thought that they should have got. And, it's not their fault. It's not if a black gets a job because the system favors him, it's not his fault. He didn't design the system. It's the government that put that system in place. And, but it feeds this racism and, it makes the society, less efficient. You destroy the incentives and you actually tell minorities that they're not good enough. If you say, look, you need a 10% or a 20% bump, then you're saying you're 20%, you're 90% of a white or you're 80% of a white. You're not a full person. That's what you're saying. I mean, so that's how kids are growing up, thinking that, no, they're not as good as the white man because they're 20%. This is nonsense. You want everybody to know that they're equal, and you try your hard. Now, of course, everybody isn't equal in ability